For those of you who don't know me, my name is Denise Sheriff, and I'm the LIS Program Director at USF. I think I've met everyone here. It's my pleasure to welcome you to the 37th Annual Alice G. Smith Lecture. The Alice G. Smith Lecture was established in 1989 to recognize a scholar or practitioner whose work made a meaningful connection to librarianship and information studies. The series honors Alice Gullen Smith, the school's first director, and a key figure in its early growth and accreditation. This evening, we'll begin by recognizing several individuals whose accomplishments reflect the strength of the program and our profession. Before moving into our keynote lecture, we'll begin with the School of Information Outstanding Student Award. Each year, this award recognizes a graduating student whose academic achievement, leadership, and contributions to the field distinguish them among their peers. This year's recipient is Brooke Bussey. Faculty described her work as consistently exceptional, noting both academic excellence and strong engagement in the program. In addition to outstanding coursework, she demonstrated leadership in SOLAS, Student Organization for Library and Information Studies, by helping expand participation and create opportunities for student collaboration and professional development. In every aspect of the program, Brooke has exemplified dedication, initiative, and clear commitment to the future of the profession. Please join me in congratulating Brooke on her recent graduation and on receiving this year's Outstanding Student Award. It is now my honor to introduce the recipients of the Jean Key Gates Distinguished Alumni Award. This award recognizes alumni whose professional achievements serve as a model for our field and our students. This year, we're proud to recognize 3 outstanding alumni. In addition to receiving their certificates this evening, each recipient will be recognized on the School of Information website, where their award and professional accomplishments will be featured on the Jean Key Gates Alumni Award page. Our first recipient is Brad Ward. Brad serves as the Executive Director of NEFLIN, the Northeast Florida Library Information Network, and has been a leader in Florida's library community for decades. A graduate of the USF MLIS program, he continues to support the program through his service on the MLIS Advisory Council. Please join me in congratulating Brad Ward. Next, I would like to recognize Jorge Perez. Jorge is Emerging Technologies Librarian at the University of Miami's Medical Library, and he brings more than 20 years of experience in academic libraries. His work focuses on integrating emerging technologies into instruction and advancing access to health information. Please join me in congratulating Jorge E. Perez. now I would like to recognize Nancy Fredericks. Nancy is a library consultant and former library administrator with more than 20 years of experience in library leadership and public service. She also serves as an adjunct instructor at the University of South Florida, teaching courses in community engagement, adult services, and library management, and has contributed to the MLIS program through service on the Advisory Council. Please join me in congratulating Nancy Fredericks.
Go right here, too. Perfect.
Please join me once again in congratulating this year's Jean Key Gates Distinguished Alumni Award recipients. Thank you all for celebrating these outstanding members of our Library and Information Science community. We'll now transition into the Alice G. Smith Lecture. It's my honor and privilege to introduce this year's Alice G. Smith Lecturer, Nancy Fredericks. Nancy brings more than 20 years experience in library leadership and public service in her work as a library consultant. As a former libraries administrator with Pasco County Libraries, she offers deep operational insight into how libraries function and serve their communities. During her tenure, she and her team have led major system improvements, including the renovation of 7 branch libraries and the construction of 2 new library facilities. In addition to her professional leadership, Nancy serves as an adjunct instructor at the University of South Florida School of Information, where she teaches courses in community engagement, adult services, library management, and public librarianship. She's also contributed to the program through service on the MLIS Advisory Council. Nancy holds a bachelor's degree in business administration and management from St. Leo University and a Master of Library and Information Science from the University of South Florida. She is also a certified public manager through Florida State University. This evening, she will present Community, the Heart of the Library. Before we begin, it's my pleasure to present Nancy with this year's Alice G. Smith presentation plaque. Congratulations.
Hi, good evening. Thank you so much for these awards. I'm very honored. So my talk today is on community engagement, and I'm going to talk about the community as the heart of the library. So often we hear that the library is the heart of a community, but really the community is the heart of the library. For what is a library without its community? Community engagement is not a new concept in libraries. In the late 1960s, the American Library Association established the committee called Coordinating Committee on Library Service to the Disadvantaged, which became an office of the Office for Library Service to the Disadvantaged and Underserved. This office went through several iterations, and in the mid-1990s, it became the Office for Literacy and Outreach And librarians at that time did understand that the library could work within their community to address the needs of that community. In 2000, Dr. Kathleen De La Pena McCook wrote the transformative book, A Place at the Table, Participating in Community Building. She urged librarians to get involved in planning and development so they would have a better understanding of the issues their communities were facing. In this book, she describes 5 characteristics of librarians who are community builders. They understand the community in which they work. They are sincere in their commitments to that community. They work to build trust-based relationships. They possess organizing experience, and they are flexible and adaptable. Around that time, I was earning my master's degree in library and information science at the University of South Florida. I took McCook's class on community engagement. It inspired me. I wanted to be one of those community builders. As my interest in public librarianship grew, I asked McCook to be my academic advisor. Throughout my career, she offered me support and encouragement. She opened a lot of doors for me, including adjuncting at the University of South Florida. I now teach that community engagement course, and I find that it's been rewarding to watch the students transform their understanding of community engagement throughout the semester. At the start of the semester, they think it's just community engagement is just outreach or marketing, or they think it's about targeting underserved and creating services for them. By the end of the semester, they understand that community engagement is much more encompassing. It's an ongoing process of fostering community members' participation in addressing specific needs in their community. Over many years of teaching this course, I have found that community engagement practices in libraries continue to be refined and improved. Noah Lenstra, an associate professor of library and information science at the University of North Carolina, Greensboro, is one person who has studied and written extensively about community engagement. And he wrote the book with Sarah Barbakoff, who was the CEO of CoLab Capacity, and their book here is the 12 Steps to Community-Led Library, and this further explores the role of the library in community engagement. The introduction to this book is titled, "The Community is the Heart of the Library," from which I borrowed the title of this lecture. Lenstra and Barbakoff introduce a form of community engagement that goes beyond public participation to power sharing. The authors argue that the only way the library can be the heart of the community is when every person in the community feels welcome and has a sense of belonging, and where they see themselves represented. Lenstra and Barbakoff argue that libraries need to make a fundamental shift toward equitable and community-centered ways of thinking. This means authentically sharing power and giving that power that the library traditionally holds to the members of the community. One example of this is how libraries respond to survey data. Community members complete the survey, but the library retains all the power on what to do with the feedback. So forgive all the words, sorry. The idea of power sharing is not new and is utilized in a participatory model known as asset-based community development, or ABCD, another method that we study in the community engagement course I teach. The model, according to the ABCD Institute at DePaul University, lists the following core values. Start with gifts. This means focusing on assets and strengths, not deficits and needs. Build relationships for mutual support. Value small. nurture community-led action, work for equity and justice, believe in possibility, lead by stepping back, and include everyone. The ABCD model resonates with many of my students, and I often find they write about this in their posts and their assignments. The community-led model of planning that Lenstra and Barberkoff described is based on a method developed by Canadian librarians in their Community-Led Libraries Toolkit. You can see here the differences between traditional and community-led planning. The ABCD and the community-led models are rooted in the idea that everyone has strengths and gifts as well as agency. So Margaret Wheatley, she's an author, speaker, and she's a consultant with a doctorate in organizational behavior. And she says, I think a major act of leadership right now, call it a radical act, is to create places and processes so people can actually learn together using our shared experiences. Often library leaders, because we have been trained this way, want to tell the community how the library can help solve their problems. Hence the common saying, the library is the heart of the community. It's common for librarians to use outreach and marketing methods to send message to community members that the library is there to address the community's needs, rather than allowing the members themselves to assess and develop solutions to their problems. Power sharing, community engagement means that we listen to all community members and allow them to determine the services and programs that the library offers. Lenstra and Barberkoff in their book, as the title suggests, provide 12 clear steps to community-led planning. During my time working for Pasco Libraries, we were able to test some of these ideas included in this book. We did not follow the steps sequentially. We were able to implement some of the concepts though, and one of the things we did was we conducted what I call street corner interviews or street corner surveys. In addition to the typical patron satisfaction survey, various members of our team stood at shopping centers, hung out at bowling alleys, and other places where community members visited, and we asked people 3 simple questions. One was, did they use the library? And if so, what services did they use? 2, if they didn't use the library, why not? And 3, if they felt, whether they used the library or not, that the library should be funded and be part of their community. We gave each person who took the survey a small button that said, I love my library. The buttons were a big hit. We gathered hundreds of responses. What we discovered was that most people we surveyed did not actually use the library, but they did think the library should be part of their community. In another initiative, we encouraged the librarians to develop partnerships. We didn't want to assign them particular groups, so we encouraged them to review groups who book our meeting rooms and to see if a group was of particular interest to them. We encouraged them to meet these groups inside and outside the library so they could begin to develop relationships. There was no pressure for them to develop a program or do anything in particular other than to build relationships. And then when Pasco Libraries embarked on a project to create a unique makerspace at each branch, we encouraged branch team members to identify community members or groups who could offer classes in their makerspaces. One example is we held an open house for a makerspace in Land O'Lakes Library. It's a wood shop called The Foundry. 2 women who are retired engineers heard about the makerspace and came to the open house. When the librarian there spoke with them, the engineers offered to host a program for children where the children build a house with popsicle sticks, and then they used blow dryers to knock them down. The children learned about buildings and what methods of construction could withstand strong winds. The librarian at that branch also met with the Tri-County Woodturners, a local chapter of the American Association of Woodturners. The woodturners volunteered to teach classes in woodworking in our wood shop, as well as the safety courses that were required before anyone could use the equipment in the makerspace. The librarians were not pressured to develop these relationships. We wanted them to grow organically. Librarians did not have to spend time telling the community that their work matters because the community members were involved and could see the difference the library is making. Our goal was to find a few ways to help the librarians become comfortable with building relationships. Community engagement work is not a separate project, it's an ongoing process, and it takes time for mindsets to shift. I'd like to close sharing a concept I was introduced recently that connects directly to the community being the heart of the library. I referenced this idea a few times already this evening. It involves the community having a sense of belonging. We often say that we want the library to be welcoming, but there's a difference between being welcomed into a community and having a sense of belonging to that community. When I welcome you, I'm welcoming you into my space rather than you feeling like you belong here. The need to belong is universal and fundamental. In a community of belonging, all backgrounds and identities experience deep connection through individual and collective encounters. People are encouraged to be their true, authentic selves in a place where they can fulfill a human need. Where distributed power is embraced and everyone contributes. The library can be a place where people feel they belong and that the library belongs to them. The community is indeed the heart of the library.
Thank you for that inspiring presentation, Nancy. This concludes our programming for tonight. I want to thank everyone for being here and for supporting